And this is the typical cell for men. So quite a very small cell, because a cell is 2 meters 60 by 2 meters 60. But inside, usually they put 15 to 20 men. And they were sitting down all along the wall, back against the wall, shackles in the neck, in the arms. And they pricked them once a day. It was just in order to permit them to go outside, to release themselves. But also, most of the time, they lived inside, in so bad sanitation conditions, that the first plague epidemic that ravaged the entire island of Gore in 1779 took place from a house like this, because there are something like 28 slave houses in this small island. Next is the famous cell reserved for kids, children from 6 years old until 17. Also a very small cell with this corridor leading to the bottom. And the children usually are laid out on the floor like fishes on sardine boxes. And we have noticed that inside corresponds to the highest death rate. So the next corresponds to the famous cell reserved for the young girls, particularly for virgins, because they separate women with young girls. And the thing comes from the African custom. During the slave trade, they reserved specifically standing races for virgin girls. But also virgin girls, finally, were more primitive than the other slaves, because they were very expensive. And for example, they don't have to go outside to relieve themselves. So that's why, so in the front of the door, one can see today a big stone will show the former place reserved for the toilet. But also for that time, it was a kind of privilege. And the next corresponds to the former cell reserved for temporarily unfit, just for men under 60 kg. And the 60 kg corresponds to the minimum weight required for a man. That is why, for most of them who don't reach 60 kg, usually they put them inside the cell in order to feed them like geese. And they feed them with a kind of beans, so-called particularly in Senegal, niébé. But after 3 months, and 3 months corresponds to the duration of the stay for slaves, just because it was a time taken by boats to come from Europe to Senegal. If they don't reach 60 kg, they didn't go to America. So they sold them locally in auction, and they stayed in Gore Island as domestic slaves, or in Saint-Louis of Senegal. And Saint-Louis was a former capital of Senegal, located on the northern part of the country. So what you see is located under the stairs, and it was where the rebellious slaves was kept. And also they don't take care about how the number of slaves that they could put inside at the same time. The problem for the guards was exactly how to shut the door after the captives. Because they considered captives not as human beings, but as a simple merchandise. And it's the door of no return. So if you look at the picture, so the big hope is that the door of no return corresponds to the liberties. But for the slaves, it was a starting point of the voyage without return. Because after the door, and when you go through the corridor, before going out the door of no return, So this is exactly what you can see. And the two cells correspond to the waiting room for the slaves. It was where the slaves was kept before the departure. But now the door of no return. Why the door of no return? It was just of because when a slave step out from this door, for the slave it seems bye-bye Africa. Because after the door was a kind of wooden bridge. And usually they use a wooden bridge just in order to catch small canoes from the bridge because the rocks, you see. To go to the big ships was far away. But also, the slaves, once they go, they change them from their uncles, two by two. And in the middle of the chain was attached a very big iron ball, about 10 kilograms, 300 grams. And that is why, when a slave attempts to escape by jumping, for example, he can go far away, because he died by diving, or beaten by the guards, or eaten by the sharks, due to the people who were sick or agonizing who were thrown into the sea. The rocks. And upstairs was where the traders was living. But now the big question is how those people during the slave trade could live upstairs, which was happening downstairs. And you can see the difference between up and down. But also today the slave house is a place of reconciliation. And that's why we welcome visitors coming from everywhere in the world. Without separation is black and white. Because we don't see skin color. It's just a place of reconciliation, just in order to build together a new world. And also, we welcome children, just because in Senegal, the slave trade and slavery is a part of our school children curriculum. So that's why it is today an obligation for teachers to bring their kids to the house of slaves. So the problem is now how to welcome all the kids coming from everywhere in the country. It's a big challenge. So per day we welcome around 1,000 children at the same time. And we suppose also to welcome visitors coming from everywhere in the world. And also we welcome head of states in Senegal. So because they use usually the house of slaves and Gorée Island to address their recommendation to the world. This is the President Obama. It was last year, June 27, and also the head of state of Senegal. So President Obama, the family, the First Lady, and Augustin Senghor, which is the mayor of Gorée Island, and his wife. So Augustin Senghor is also the president of the Federation of Soccer of Senegal. A very young mayor. So also the slave house is a place of reconciliation among people, but the thing is to forgive, but not to forget. Never forget. And also, I use this picture just to say that we have to fight for the liberties. And this is an expression of a beautiful world with equality, peace, and reconciliation. And also, I would like to quote President Abraham Lincoln in giving freedom to the slaves. We assure freedom to the free. Thank you very much.